From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and Andor. This is the Andor Report. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Jen Landa.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and we're already starting what will probably be a long episode. Kind of tired, which I think really fits the themes of Andor. This arc of desperation and exhaustion and just trying to survive.
It is, and we need it. We need to face these things. We need to deal with these things. But also we need to dive in and find some joy, as Per would say. Hey, we're going to dive in deep to Andor today. Episodes 4, 5, and 6, the second arc, the second block, as Tony would say, our pal Tony Gilroy. And it's deep, it's dense, and we are going to have fun doing it, so stick around for that. We always like to remind you today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a new throat and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We like recommending an audiobook to try out on us, and we're going to stick with Rebel Rising by Beth Revis. If you want some great Saw Gerrera stuff and some wonderful Jen Erso stuff, which is the focus of the book, download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. Watching on YouTube, hi. If you're new, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We're racing towards 10,000 subs. A humble little goal for us. But that's my opening spiel, Joseph. Let's dive into these 3 episodes.
Oh, I'm very excited to dive in. Like Ken was saying, we're talking about the second arc, the 3-episode television movie, Tuesday night movie on Disney Plus. 3 episodes, all about 40-ish minutes, 42-ish, 45-ish minutes by the time you get past all of the previously on the credits.
Yeah.
So season 2, episode 4, Ever Been to Gorman? Episode 5, I Have Friends Everywhere. And episode 6, What a Festive Evening. All episodes written by Beau Willimon, once again directed by Ariel Kleiman, which means Ariel directed half of this season, which is amazing. And I'm so curious to see with new directors if the tradition of a wide shot of a person walking and seeing their back and wondering who they are, what are their motives, if that will continue throughout the season, because that has been a great defining shot of season 2. We always like to talk about favorite moments. We talk about the big themes, but we start with overall reaction, not only to the episodes themselves, but I think as fans, we always like to discuss what's our experience of how we're taking these in, because we try to get away from all the noise and just have the relationship between the fan and the art. But there's the reality of, when did he get released? What's going on in our lives? That I think affects how we think about them and how we talk about them. So, Jennifer, what was your overall reaction to these 3 episodes in your viewing experience?
Well, I love the episodes, but it's one of those things where if I'm going to compare it to food, I had an incredible dinner. I'm so full after the first episode, and then the chef is like, "I've made you this delicious dessert." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I love it because it's fantastic, but I'm so full I can't really enjoy it." And then they're like, "And we're going to have dessert wine after your dessert." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm drunk and I feel uncomfortable.
It is like surf and turf in a third large thing. Is like, it does. The food metaphor hit me too. It was just like, this is a lot to literally digest. It is so rich and it is so delicious. But does the overall experience get to be compromised when you're doing I want to get it all in, so I just know the basics of what happened. I don't want spoilers, but it is hard to really savor it and appreciate all of the delicacies of the flavors, which is, I think, what these episodes are about when you're devouring them all in one evening. It's definitely a challenge. Ken, how was your overall experience?
This is much like Jen. You're bringing up my own life here. My birthday, I went to lunch at Wood Ranch with my friends Mark and Christian Ruvakaba, and then I went to dinner at Little Tony's with my friend Joe Starr. Friday was horrible. The day after that was horrible, but man, that was fun. No, I was able to get to the episodes, and I don't want to sit there. It's not a complaint. It's just this is what Joseph asks: is the context. It's sometimes important, and that could sometimes color a view of the show. Enjoy these episodes, quite frankly. Really great stuff. Slow burns, and Bo Willimon definitely, I'd say, now has a brand. Has a brand of big third episode, and that's great. But yeah, no, I couldn't get to these right away again. I signed into the old Disney Plus and saw the runtimes, and I'm so glad I could hear you in my head, Joseph, going, subtract credits in this. It's an actual, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not 3 hours. It's like 2 hours and 50 minutes. It was daunting, and it's daunting. And you know, Tony Gilroy's made the jokes in the press and everything, the podcasters. So we're not complaining. We're it's new Star Wars. I was excited, but I didn't finish these till well after midnight. And then my rewatch happened on my phone, just like George Lucas intended film to be made and received on my phone, watching in bed last night and early this morning, and it's actually fine. You're actually we're all used to that now. But I'm not gonna say I'm a hero, but I had to push through all that to dive into the episodes.
Yeah, no, I was in a similar place. There's lots of I'm really trying hard this week to finish editing the film, and I kind of can't do anything else. But I stopped for Andor, so it was like, yeah, it is a really busy time. I made myself a nice drink and a nice meal, and then I just I feel like the characters are just kind of like logy and slow, and what am I doing? And I think that was what was interesting about it is I think these episodes felt extra real in that they're dealing with all these very real world questions that are a part of our conversation now of what is the best way to resist a fascist government. Is it with anger, with patience, with empathy? All those real world questions. When a lot of people are suffering in the real world right now, I think a lot of what's happening on social media is people are giving one another the kind advice to like make time for yourself, make time for self-care. And it was kind of weird to be like, this first episode is about Bix trying to give herself self-care. She just wants dinner and to walk in the park. And Cassian's like, no, we can't. So those rhythms with what real people who are really suffering right now are really feeling are hard. And then I also think that in all these discussions about how Andor is different from other Star Wars, I thought this 3-episode arc was particularly different because I feel like the big picture of what it's about, this story, is the rebellion stalling out. And I think as audience members, our first question, our first reaction when we're watching something is the most basic is what happens? What choices do the characters make? And what are the ramifications of those choices? And I think this arc is on purpose about characters having a hard time making choices, deciding not to do things, or only doing things that are just about survival in the bare minimum, and no one can agree how to move forward or accomplish things that actually move forward. I think that's like the picture of the rebellion, but it does make it an interesting viewing experience when your first question when you're just shoveling down this big meal is what happens? And I think beautifully on purpose in this arc, a lot of what happens is the characters can't move a goddamn thing forward. So which made it an extra fascinating viewing experience when you're like, I'm gonna pile in Star Wars at midnight, you know?
Yeah. No, there was a couple times where I just had the get on with it kind of thing, which isn't about the writing, pacing, all those things we talk about every week, which might come up. Who knows? But like, it just was like, come on, do it. I want the Steve Earle song to start playing. The revolution starts now. Do it. Get to it. But it was great. Good experience.
Yes. The different song called How Do We Start the Revolution?
The revolution might start tomorrow. Maybe we're thinking about it.
The revolution stalls now. This is not a pacing criticism. I think it's really, to me, it's such a clear choice that this is an arc about the rebellion stalling out. And I think when we'll get into the big themes and ideas, but I think what really spoke to me about this arc is there's a strange kind of hope lurking around the corner for me of Andor has always, the show has always promoted, hey, things are complicated. There's nuance, and I think there is complication and nuance in everybody's perspectives in this. But I feel like the show is building more and more toward the ultimate message of hope of the Skywalker saga, of the way we win is by saving what we love, not fighting what we hate, by working together, by valuing compassion, by seeing teddy bears on a meaningless moon and going, they're a culture, they have perspective and worth too. Connection, community, empathy. That's the story of Star Wars. So that's what ultimately defeats the Empire. And Andor's always been like a gritty, like, let's dig into the reality of that. And I felt like this arc is so much about showing Luthen's sunless space ethos failing, because it's all about lost connections, lost joy, and everything is stalling out. Like, what the key exchange for me in this whole arc, there's many, but what really spoke to me is when Mothma was wanting to be put in contact with her cousin Vel, and Luthen says, something urgent she needs knowing, and Mothma says, yes, I care about her. It really just it excited me that I feel like there will be complications, there will be nuance, nothing's super simple, but that Andor is going to contribute to the overall story, that of the message of fighting with community and empathy and connection.
Yeah, that was, I think, the key scene for me. I did mark down. I don't have a lot of notes today. I have concept of notes today, working through everything, but just didn't have time. It's like you have to choose as someone who's, we've been doing this now 11 years, making a living off of diving in deep. It's like, do I watch it again or do I make notes? I'm just like, I'm going to watch it again. Put it all up here. So thanks, Tony. No, that scene, that Mothma moment, it's not even a scene, right? It's a moment. Was pretty powerful and kind of summarized all 3 episodes for me right there. Mm-hmm. And look, we have been open in a way, at least Joseph and I, Jennifer, I never want to speak for you or Joseph, but where I love Stellan Skarsgård is Luthen. Love the character of Luthen. I've just been kind of saying, dude's kind of wrong about a lot of things. That's why Cassian takes the sniper rifle down from Galen Erso's head in Rogue One. That's what we're building to. And I was quite frankly at odds with some people, maybe my life, about that last season. And I'm not saying I'm taking a victory lap. I just enjoyed watching Luthen start to crack. And not only he start to crack, the people around him going, dude, what's with you? Like, we're pieces? We're chess pieces? Like, what is this? And it was fun to watch in a way, not because I'm right about Luthen. It's not about right or wrong. It's just like, I'm like, yes, I think I saw something in that speech different than others. You take what you want from it, but he's a problem, or he's becoming a problem, even though you need him, even though you need an accelerator, or you need Saw Gerrera to literally be the fuel that's going to ignite things. We'll talk about that. That was part
killer.
Of the things.
Yeah.
Tech killer, you saw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we saw Luthen have a moment of humanity with Bix, where he kind of dials it back and he reacts to how fragile she is, and he really approaches her a little bit more gently than I was expecting him to. It's kind of a rare moment for the character, but I really loved when he was with Clea and talking about how in over their head, like he's overwhelmed. That was really another moment where I was like, oh, he is human. He doesn't have it all together. And this is the rebellion has grown so big and they've got so many bugs all over the place. You can't keep track. And that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I think that just actually seeing him crack, I'm drowning. We're drowning. It was great, and we'll get into all the details of it, but I think it's really powerful to see that he has that potential for humanity, but he has so convinced himself that in order for him to free the galaxy from the Empire, everybody's a chess piece. And he's nice to Bix in that moment, I think, because she's having too hard of a time to be valuable to him. So he ultimately, in that last episode, gives her the assignment that will make her hard. He says that she needs to be tougher. So he, in a Saw-like way, gives her the mission to kill Gorsk. Gives her the mission of vengeance. And I can't wait to talk more about that moment. It's such a great manipulation that Andor does, of like, for me as a viewer watching it, like, Gorsk is a monster and I shed no tears and for him. But in the morality of Star Wars and in the morality of life, like, it's vengeance. And that's what Luthen gives her to make her the soldier that he thinks she needs to be. I think that's just like such fascinating, painful manipulation.
Yeah, I did weep for the sweet cake that, of course, brought back to his office. Who's going to eat that?
Delicious.
A little treat. A little treat. He just wanted to give himself a little treat in his office. You want to sneak back to his office.
Yeah, man.
Working his desk.
The high class, low class stuff of people being, Anyway, there was the food metaphors, were continuous. I just want to dine at that Gorman Cafe. Let's talk about some favorite moments. Then we'll get into the big themes and ideas. Jennifer, did you not jot down any moments that you enjoyed?
I have too many favorite things that I love. I really, really do. The big one that stood out to me, which is why I had a difficult time kind of focusing on themes and everything that was happening. I was so mesmerized by the production design. This show, as Tony Gilroy has said, this type of show like this was not going to get made again. It's most likely not going to get made. You look at that, the sets, the props, the cakes, so much detail has gone into creating this world, specifically the planet Gorman, the patisserie, right? I want to dine there with this Art Deco design and like the gold cups and things like that. It just is so incredible, down to like even the way that the fabric in the textile stores, you can see the fabric on these boards. Like, what? It's amazing. I just was so taken by that. Another detail was the language of Gore, which is based on the French phonetic alphabet. But the dialect coach, Marina Tyndall, she created the language. And then they cast French actors. It sounded like a real language. I was like, okay, hold on. I know that this is partially French, but just brilliant. Brilliant. So those are my top two, and I have more, but I'll shut up.
I so agree with you, and I think it's not only like beautiful and tactile because it's physically real and all that, but I think it makes you feel what's at stake. And like one of the things that when Mothma is trying to whip votes, one of the things she lists as priority that people used to vote with her on and don't anymore is respect for individual cultures. Like what's happening to Gorman is horrific, but we're made to feel it so much because watching all that, it reminded me of when I got to visit Norway last summer, of like some of the design looks like those places that's unique and real and individual, and all that stuff I think just makes you feel it so much more, of just like, that cafe, the delicatessen with the Gorlectopod art. I want to visit there, and knowing that it's going to be the scene of a bloodbath, or at least adjacent to it, is so painful to look at. Like, why do these places in this culture need to be destroyed to fuel Palpatine's desire for unlimited power? It's really, really great stuff.
Yeah, the world building is obviously so valuable to this show, and it's all of Star Wars. That goes back to New Hope, of course. One of the things George was credited with early on at building this realistic world, the dirt, the grime, everything, but the beauty, the elegance, the calm. I wanted to, I love traveling to hotels and just kind of, even though I got shows at night, I live in the community for a day. I just love the feeling of walking around, finding your coffee shop across from the hotel, whatever it is. I want to go check it at Gorman. I want to Palma, the city of Palma, right? I want to go there.
The pigeons and the outdoor cafes. It felt very. I think they even said it was like modeled after Italy, northern Italy.
Yeah.
Amazing. What else is on your list, Jen?
Let's see. Okay, the costumes, also another wonderful detail. Michael Wilkinson, he is killing it. Cassian's Varian Sky costume, which was really, really fun to see Diego. I've not complained, but I've been like, I want to see the charming side of Diego Luna, which we know that he has, and he got to really channel that with the character and the cape and the Bono sunglasses. Ken, what era was that? What era was that when he had the Bono sunglasses?
It's very The Fly. He's The Fly, 91, 92 range. Yes,
That's it. Yes. Yeah. I was like, Bono? Oh my gosh, genius. Mon Mothma's dresses. I'm just like, this is phenomenal. Because it's not just like cool. it says so much about these characters, and that's really what I love. And the last thing I'll mention is the Clea scene where she's trying to recover the bug from the Tinian Codex. I was watching it at 1:00 in the morning. I was so tired. I was like not falling asleep, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to get through this. That scene had me on the edge of my seat. It woke me up, and then I couldn't go to sleep because I was like, that was so good. The tension, the way it was edited, the way it was acted, just brilliantly done.
Yeah. The blood was a great touch.
Blood.
Yes. Yeah. Ken, what are some moments that you enjoyed?
We can start with every moment with Clea. Clea Marquis, played by Elizabeth Dula, who's just been slaying it from last season, but getting even more of a spotlight here. Just the energy, the intensity, what she's hiding, what she's sacrificed, all those things are starting to, explode out of her eyes and ears like steam during this rebellion. I loved everything about it. There's a lot of moments. The Krennic versus Mothma is a night one WrestleMania main event to me. I loved that scene. There's a lot of things to dive into it. The parties, the photo robots and droids. But I want for a second to talk about Saw Gerrera. Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera. Look, years discussing Star Wars here on ForceCenter the way we do, and trying to have a keen understanding of the world around us while we discuss it. And I've gone through some things where, like, I no longer wear my Imperial hat because people associate that with certain things now that they didn't 15, 10, 20, 40 years ago, where it's no longer just a fun Star Wars thing. Now it's like, what side you on? I take all this seriously. I have to set it aside for a second because Saw Gerrera is absolutely one of my favorite characters. This is absolutely one of my favorite performances. I am mesmerized beyond belief by what Saw Gerrera is. So without worrying about what he represents a lot. Just watching Forrest Whitaker come in and just be absolutely unhinged every moment. The boom, the breathing of the fumes that he now associates with his sister Steela. Just the connection there. Just knowing where he goes. He's dressed in this wonderfully bizarre. Old school wrestling fans will get the reference. Max Moon outfit from the early 90s. It's a spaceman from beyond outfit. He's clinking along. He hasn't lost all his parts yet. But I'm so blessed as a fan to just have this character roaming around, raising the tough questions, killing tech, all those things we know about him that we talk about and I think are important to talk about without worrying about what he represents. It's just, I'm so thrilled every time he comes on. I just lean forward a little bit more and just I don't know if a spin-off show, I'm not saying it's going to happen. It might be too much. I think Saw is best served out in these little crazy dishes, and everything about him was my favorite in these 3 episodes, which is saying a lot because it's great stuff.
I was watching that thinking of how happy Forrest Whitaker must have got to get that script, to be like, there's the chaos and the danger and the wound that you're always kind of playing underneath the surface. Well, usually in scenes you're trying to argue with other people that you're still holding it together and that you're logical and that your philosophy is correct, and all this is bubbling underneath. Forget the trying to convince anybody it's logic. We want you to go on a Rhydonium huffing madman journey, convincing this young, sad person that your wound is the galaxy's wound and everyone should just be ready to explode at all times. That the lack of logic to it, the pure emotion. And then, like, part of the time I'm watching it, like, we meet Saw in Rogue One on film, the clank of those, haphazardly put together metal feet, right? And you're always like, what battle did he lose his legs? Like, is that gonna be like, oh, I was sniffing Rhydonium and it blew my legs off?
Just like burn from the outside. Revolution is not for the saint. One of my favorite Saw Gerrera moments that I think for me kind of explains like how I love the performance is back in Rogue One, where you're talking with Jyn and he has that, like, you were the daughter of an Imperial science. He spits it out. It's not a clean delivery. Like, I bet there was other takes that were cleaner, but he just has this. It's so just full of energy and subtext and anger and insanity and that line from Rogue One has just been expanded upon for me in terms of performances in this series.
I just want to say with the Saw thing, I was terrified. Sorry, my dog. He was so unhinged, and then to see that he's like addicted to this this drug. If you've ever come across, unfortunately, a meth addict, and unfortunately I have, it is horrifying. It is like monstrous. And that's really what he's portraying, where I was like sad, I was sickened, I was scared, all in that moment. And then the fact that he brings this young man and is exposed, oh my, I like wanted to cry. I was like, but that's what Forrest Whitaker is bringing, all these layers and this like, oh, it's just so depressing, but beautiful. It's so important to include it in the story because it sets up the character for where we go with the character later on.
Yeah, I think is very incredibly well done. How Willman fit it, that'd have been a great scene if it wasn't Willman, but the way Willman fits into it is fantastic as well.
Right.
Ken, what else do you have on your list for some favorite moments?
I liked there was so many great moments of intimacy. We'll dive into the themes, but we talked last week about what's at stake, the loss, and it is those connections, the intimacy, relationships, and to see several relationships. I'm talking about actual like romantic relationships in action and the different ways around them. The quiet, the tense but quiet, warm connection that Cassian and Bix are currently having, despite all the tension around them. The reunion of Cinta and Vel, I should say, was warm and full of themes and then tragedy. But even there was moments of connection with Mothma and Parrot, who I actually really loved in this episode. His reaction to Krennic of that in party insincerity, A+, Halster Mackenzie, A+. But then I think there's great comedy, but it's comedy of character with of course, Syril and Deidre. But the turn out the lights is, and they've clipped it out on Star Wars Social. It's a fun moment, and we all kind of can giggle at it. But it shows how intimacy is achieved in that relationship. In darkness, without connection, without ice, without seeing each other, it's darkness, and it's control, it's anxiety, and just have that on the Imperial side to play opposite the hands, the connection, Bix and Cassian, and the passion that Cinta and Vel have in that moment after reconnecting, like and the the true communication versus Syril's doing some great stuff here. Kyle Solar's doing some great work. This is a great day of my life. All that stuff, but just to turn out the lights was kind of the darkness and the light of what's at stake in these episodes and this show. Going back to what we were talking about last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Cinta and Vel scene is great. That it was blocked so well to be like they are too far physically apart for the level of intimacy. And one of them is going to have to move first, literally. Like you're watching the scene where you feel like this is building to a kiss, and one of the characters has to get up and clear some actual distance. And the vulnerability in that one of them has to get up first and move. It was such a great contrast to everything else. Yeah, there's a lot of great scenes with Cassian and Bix when he came home from Gorman, and they're being flirty and kind of joking about seeing how much she would like his his sky outfit. But the contrast, like you're saying, between that hand scene, which is just maybe that's cultural to Ferrix, but it is just let me in just total intimacy,
connection,
right?
Connection,
intimacy and connection, and you're saying the contrast of the harsh, angry lights out. I thought one of my favorite things, jumping off that I think has been running through the show, but was really highlighted in this arc, is Cassian and Syril as mirrors for one another. That they are both now full-on spies with missions. They both have extremely important mother figures that motivate them in different ways. They are now both being loomed over by dangerous father figures, Luthen on one side and Partagaz on the other. And it really ties into all the bigger themes, but now both in relationships that are not just relationships, they are tied up into the business of espionage and spycraft. And that I think you're so right to point out the contrast of those romantic scenes that Syril and Cassian have with the people in their lives. But I think by really getting them closer and closer to, they are really mirrors, I think really invites us to think about what is the one thing that is different about them, which is how they're motivated. Cassian is in this fight because he's lost loved ones. He lost his sister. He lost Marva. He lost the culture of Ferrix. He knows the pain of of loss. He doesn't want to lose anyone else, and he's committed to this fight to save people. And wonderful games in these episodes with Syril of trying to get the audience to think like, well, maybe he actually did make a connection with the people on Gorman. Like, no, Syril is a poor, tortured man who was victimized by his awful mother to hate himself and need to prove himself constantly. And all Syril cares about is proving himself at any cost. Syril is selfish, and Cassian is motivated by helping others. It's such a great... it is complex, but I think it does boil down to that contrast.
Does indeed, and leads to some just wonderful moments with Edie that are just will stay with me forever. I shall call it Syril.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments I wrote down right away is I have spiders to count. Angry little line. Jennifer, do you have any other favorite moments that you wanted to share? Any little lines or beats or anything like that?
No, although I do want to acknowledge that Val and Cinta's kiss. Now, they kissed in the previous season, correct?
Their relationship was established, but I can't remember if we actually saw them be intimate in any way.
Right. I thought it was wonderful in this block of things, because it felt so right, and like it shouldn't be a big deal, and yet and it wasn't for me. And then I was like, oh, actually, wow, this is the first time that we've seen
in a sustained way,
with the main characters, and I just thought it was wonderful, and I'm so happy that we're making progress slowly but surely in the Star Wars world.
Yeah, there's the peck in the background in Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
But yes, but
but not like this. This was like, yes,
good
finally.
God, no.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And it was, and I think it's so wonderful because you're so invested in the characters and it's so aligned with what's at stake, and it is really, really a beautiful moment. For me, just a couple other just lines that I really loved. The Perrin line of "It's tough squeezing a whole year's worth of insincerity into 3 nights" is really great. The Krennic and Mothma smackdown was great, but how pleasant to see you free of the witness stand. Such great world building of like, Mothma is kind of allowed to be the sort of agitator who isn't actually effective in the Senate, and just annoys people with her committees to investigate things. And of course, she'd be having Krennic in the witness box all the time. It was so great. A million Syril in lines, in Dedra and everything, but the Syril talking about the rebels of their inexperienced but eager, in Partagas saying how often those attributes align. It was great. And again, I got to know if this one's on your list. This seems like, the community has come to love Partagas's thesis, please. I think it's probably going to be bumped out of the top one with really? It's an assignment. Calibrate your enthusiasm.
I think that's a t-shirt waiting to happen somewhere. That'll get you 10 cents on TeePublic. But it will be, calibrate your enthusiasm. He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah. Any other things on your favorite moments list there, Ken?
Just conversations. We'll talk about maybe more in the canon connections, but taking the Legends, one of the Legends versions, but perhaps the most known, at least to me, of the Gorman Massacre, Tarkin landing a ship on people, and just weaving it into the story for a show and a showrunner who and I'm part of it, is sometimes poked at for being sometimes seemingly outside of the Star Wars world. He understands it. He gets it. He talks openly about, I have to have this here because of Rebels, of Star Wars Rebels. And he's much like taking Cassian's known origin story and twisting it and turning it into a new wrinkle beyond just a new encyclopedia entry. It's done with great purpose, and just be able to not look at something as just an entry or a checklist of, the Gorman Massacre was Tarkin did this, he landed his ship, to actually have that bellhop explain it in great detail because he was there, and to feel it. That the show does that so well, and I want to give them praise for that here. And I'm sure we'll talk more about the canon connections, but it was good to feel It wasn't like oh, they addressed it. It's like, oh, you feel what it was, the Tarkin massacre.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Jen?
No, I was just thinking about something totally different. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I saw your thinking face. So
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
because I was thinking about the ISB officer. Who was the guy? Not Lonnie, the other young man that was with him.
He was
Dedra's former assistant whose
yeah.
name I don't remember, who clearly got promoted.
Yes.
Hurt. I think it's Supervisor Hurt.
Supervisor Hurt was so great in these episodes. And when he was at the party and he was drinking those drinks, and he's like, I'm having a Cali Cooler, or whatever it was, whatever the name of the drink was. I just thought that was so great.
They did such a good job with the ISB officers of like these purveyors of absolute horrific fascism who are very well aware of the horrors they are taking part in, are also just like, but I'm in the government and this is my job. And I felt like they were going to start talking about like their favorite tracks of like, are you more of a, do you like the Niamo? Which version of the Niamo song do you like the best? Like it was there. There's some moments where they're just talking about who's going to buy whose lunch, and him just being like a guy who's happy to be at a party and has his favorite cocktails is
loved it.
Yeah.
It's just these small moments, going back to the Bellman scene. What I was thinking was the way that they've cast this, they have so many great actors. These are like, I don't want to say bit parts, but they're smaller parts. And yet every one of those actors is bringing a character that's so specific and has a whole life. And you just get it in those few lines, right? Whether it's the Bellman or this Officer Hurt or whatever his name is. I just love that. I love that about this show because it's shot in the UK. I hate to say it.
It's the cast. There's 40 working actors in the UK. Well, you had I forget. I'm trying to scroll her name, but the performer who is Miriam Azdur in Game of Thrones season 1, the witch that essentially kills Khal Drogo. She just brings the way. You have
Who is she playing?
She's the one. She's Skolden's Davos Skolden's assistant, who's like it's a fake. And,
okay.
You had the second Grand Maester from House of the Dragon. He's one of the Imperial officers, and Jedi have the same thoughts. I mention it so much because it's like one casting office in the UK that it's move there, kids. You want to be an actor? Move there.
Move there, study there. That's where you're going to get the chop that you need.
Yeah, you just physically don't. You have to move as far in the country to get to the big city, and the trains run well.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways. Yes. A million amazing individual moments as always. But we're going to dive into the big picture themes, the big ideas in this arc. We've touched on them, but I want to start with this. I feel like Andor, the show is certainly about Andor, but I feel like it's really becoming clear, especially in the second season, that like with a year jump, it isn't always a big mission. What big mission did they do this year? It's really telling the story of the rebellion and how it needs to get to the point of being a true alliance that it becomes in Rogue One, in A New Hope, with all of that compassion and connection and empathy. And I feel like this one in particular is really showing us the rebellion as it stands, a dark night of the soul, where it's really, really losing itself. And I think it's showing that in a couple ways. It's really asking, what are we actually fighting for? Have we lost the thread? Like everybody can list who they've lost and atrocities that the Empire has committed and that they're going to commit. The Empire is bad is not a question, but what are we actually trying to do about it? What is the end game? Because even to Luthen, it's like his whole great monologue that everybody loves is a guide to some of his failings. Of he treats it as to create, whatever the phrase was, a new dawn that I know I'll never live to see. And he's treating everybody like that. Like the defeat of the Empire is some ambiguous someday. So I think there's a real question of like, what are we fighting for? What are we trying to accomplish? Yes, of course, we're going to have to sacrifice to accomplish overthrowing the Empire. But Luthen's version of that is the not just a lack of intimacy, but a corruption of intimacy. He personally is either not allowing intimacy, or if there has to be intimacy, everyone around you will become a tool. Uh, so I think there's this really big picture themes of what are we actually fighting for? What are we trying to accomplish? And do we have to totally sacrifice intimacy, compassion, connection for it? Um, so I'd love to discuss the sort of some of the family stuff, some of the larger sort of political, what are we fighting for stuff. But Ken, any big picture thoughts on my opinion about where where the theme is for these episodes?
Yeah, it's good. No, I think a lot of these episodes, the themes that play in these episodes, really do kind of begin and end with Luthen. And I want to be clear, like we're not hammering on him as he's a complete villain and doesn't like. You need him. You need his fire. Anger can provide clarity and where he started and it can provide action, even vengeance. But this is, we hear a lot about, and we talk a lot about. It's all present in Star Wars and every other Star Wars story, how you fight and the loss of humanity. Don't become what you fight. I look at it in these episodes at Luthen and I boil it down to the Mothma scene. Absolutely, it's a brilliant little moment. No, I care, dick.
Yeah,
like
that's an important message that I love my cousin. Yeah, asshole. Yeah,
ForceCenter after dark here. But I also look at the safe house, the flop house there, the safe house that Bix is currently kind of stuck in, and she adds humanity to it, right? She if we're going to be here, can we keep things here? Can we leave flowers? She brings in stuff, and this does not go into the Jedi attachment conversation because we've had the Jedi are about connections. It's the fear of loss, which Cassian has in these episodes, right? He has this really, to me, a sad realization a little bit later on with Luthen of like, I can do this easier without Bix. Not saying he's gonna just like send me alone. He just kind of has that vibe. But meanwhile, she's trying to get her strength back and all these things going on with her. But just the addition of the flowers versus Luthen showing up and going, I stayed here a couple nights. Yeah, whatever. Why? I didn't stay here I don't care. He just slides through everything because he's about the cause, and you need people who are about the cause. Saw Gerrera's a cause guy, and you need cause guys. But in an episode that's analyzing what's going on and that Luthen's starting to crack, but not only it's not just he's cracking; it's the people around him, like we said, going, dude, man, like what's happening? Like, are we fighting to just be a number in your system and to what end and just to see, on the other side, Saw, because he kind of sort of doesn't trust the dude, shoots him. And we got Two Tubes who's just like, proof. We don't know. I'll take it that he was a spy. It's a little Young Guns. You all remember Young Guns when not Dirty Steve, but the other guy McCloskey gets it in the head from Billy the Kid because Billy the Kid knows he's a spy. It very much reminded me of that scene, all jokes aside. But that comes out of there's paranoia. But so that's Saw. But to take it back to Luthen and end my thoughts, it's like to watch him kind of weave his way through all of this and have some great moments and important moments. I'm not tossing him out yet. I'm just wondering who's going to get the kill shot on him, quite frankly. But it's Luthen going, I stayed here once, and it's Bix putting up flowers that's kind of the center of the episodes for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of my criticism of Luthen, I think he's made this great sacrifice and he's focused on it. And I've compared his speech in season 1 many times to a shower speech where you have an argument in your head about why you do something a certain way. You have a defensive argument, and then when we had Solani there, he's like, finally somebody I can say my shower speech to out loud. I think for me the picture of Luthen is he did sacrifice everything before anybody else was willing to, seeing where it's going. He's a visionary, and I just think the portrait I'm seeing is that the rebellion is getting to a place where he is saying, what worked for me to begin this journey and to live with some of the horrors that I would have to commit to topple the empire is to make my mind a sunless space and to become this merciless figure that doesn't allow any joy or any connection. And that's what I had to do. And so that is the only way to do it. And everybody has to do it the way I'm doing it. And I think more than anything, it's not necessarily that his choice to be like, this is the only way I can function, this is the only way I can start that rebellion, isn't necessarily bad is that he's trying to enforce it on everyone. He's trying to say everyone's mind needs to be a sunless space.
Yep,
So they're
I agree with that.
easier chess pieces for me to move around the board.
Totally.
Jennifer, do you have any sort of thoughts on my big picture theme proposal?
I think that I actually agree with Luthen, and we've seen it throughout these episodes, that the minute that you get comfortable, you're vulnerable. If you are attached to people, if you have connections with people, then you could lose them, and that could really be terrible. And so, I mean, I can just take it from my own life. Like the minute if I come home and I get cozy and I cozy up on the couch and I put on my comfy clothes, I'm not going out. I'm not ready for battle, right?
I'm not fighting. Yeah.
I'm not fighting. Like, I really I mean, whatever it is, I know it's like, okay, I have to be in this mental space and I have to stay there, which we see Luthen, which is really interesting. This is the longest I feel like we've seen him in the wig. He normally will take it off, but because he's sleeping at his shop or museum, whatever it is, right? Like he's wearing the wig more often. He's not allowing himself to slip back to his true identity. He's having to be on, right? He's having to wear this this battle suit. And so I can understand his point. If I was there, I would be the same way. I'd be like, no, we're not going to walk in the park, Bix. We can't. We got to be ready. Anything can happen.
First of all, it's nice to know in the next couple of years, Jen, that you're not going to let Joseph and I go for a walk in the park with you.
Stock up on your dry goods now, Ken. Stock
up
up on your
on the
dry
dry
goods now. We are in it.
We're in it.
Yeah, don't get friendly with the grocer. Caution is great, but I think what we can get into the depth of it. But I think Luthen is losing anything to fight for. Caution is great. Being frightened of loved ones and keeping them out of harm's way is great. Sometimes having to use violence is necessary in this storyline. But he's, in his speech, he told us, I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy. How is he any different now? He doesn't want people to feel joy. If you have somebody in your life, they are only valuable if they're going to be a tool for my ends. And I'm willing to kill anyone, even innocent people like the Gormans. I kind of want the Gormans to die. Like Luthen has started out with such great intentions, but what's left? What's left? What he wants to accomplish is toppling the Empire. That's great, but what is left? He doesn't value connection, and everyone is disposable.
Yeah.
So what's left? What is he fighting for?
Yeah, it's the ashes of the kingdom you burned down, right? Is kind of that, and I think it's interesting to what you bring up, Jen. I think of two things come to my mind of love is the death of duty, and then also there's a great line from a song from the band Clem Snide that I like called "Every Hero Walks Alone, Thinking of More Things to Confess." That's kind of where I think Luthen is rested, where he doesn't consider himself a hero, but he's just, I'm alone and I'm giving it all away. And to Justin's point, what's the worth behind that, but also on the way, to how do you actually get things done? How do you do it? And at some point, what's fascinating to me about Luthen, I don't want a comic one shot. Maybe it's an Alexander Freed book, and I don't need all the details plugged in that stereotypical cliche Star Wars way that people think happens sometimes. But to know where it broke for Luthen might be a fascinating story. Because I'm convinced, I think you're kind of saying here, Joseph, he didn't necessarily always start out this way. He had comfy pants on at one point in his life, and he realized he needed to get them off. But Jen, he's walking around with that armor. This is the dude that can't hang out at himself. He ain't a bar guy, right? He has to be on to make those connections. And when that wig comes off, he makes no connections. He burns them, in fact, maybe. And that's fascinating to watch. And it's key to the rebellion.
Yeah,
we're watching
his speech. He says his ego and his anger set him on a path, and once he realized he was on it, it was too late to get off. I think maybe that's some of my strong relationship with Luthen too, because I think when I have accomplished things in life I'm proud of, it's because I have been obsessive and made it the priority to the detriment of other things. And it's not the same as a horrible galactic rebellion, but I think I see that in Luthen, that dog with a bone, that there's something selfish about it, even though what he's doing for a good cause. It's his ego and his anger, and he decided to do this, and he's going to do this. And there's that ferocity to it that I think might blind him a bit. Anyway, I wanted to talk specifically about this sort of because it's not just Luthen. This theme in these 3 episodes of the corruption of family, the using of family. Last arc, intimacy was difficult. This arc, everybody's relationship is weaponized. Luthen has turned Cassian's entire family of Ferric survivors, this little family unit of Bix and Wilman is their sort of adopted son, if you will, into Luthen's soldiers. Now, I'm sure Bix and Wilman both volunteered, but Luthen's calling the shots. There's the tension over, he wants Bix to not be, he wants to be able to go to Bix without Cassian and send her on any mission he wants. She's his soldier now. He sent Wilman to Saw knowing that he might not ever get Wilman back. There's a lot about how Luthen kept Vel and Cinta apart on purpose. There's the line from them of we are worth more to him, Luthen, separately than together. On the other side of that, the same thing's happening with old mirror Syril. Syril is now Dedra's agent, and Cyril's mom, Edie, is a useful tool for the face that Syril wants to put on. Even with Saw, that the invocation of his sister Stela from the Clone Wars and her death is haunting everything. So there's these great pictures that we talked about of intimacy and connection and humanity going on, but everybody in charge of these battles, Luthen and Partagaz and Dedra, are weaponizing every bit of intimacy. Jennifer, how do you feel about that theme or idea in the show?
Well, I saw the actress, forgive me, Denise, what is her name? That plays Dedra Mira.
Gao, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. She was talking about her research of the character and discovering that women who are psychopaths often don't kill themselves. They use the people around them, to oftentimes loved ones, to do the killing. And I just thought that was so smart. And Syril is so dumb in that sense to not know he's being played. He is being played. I love that he's like, I'm one step ahead of you all. And it's like, oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not.
It's really portrayed like play acting, too. Like, you know, in contrast to the real horrors that Cassian goes through, he's just up on a bridge. And I love the shots fired. One shot fired.
I did, and I just love that, like, even down to his little French hat, like he just feels like he's in control, and we, the audience, know that, buddy, no, you're not.
Just him, him. Shot fire. But the Partagaz and Deidre back there, like, you don't tell him, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to tell him. Well, even if you had me followed, yes, cool. Like, he's kind of got me. Yeah. I'm in something.
Right.
I think he is actually, like, attracted to him. Like, there's those actors are great. There's like, sorry for using the H word. There's like just horny energy between those two. I think. Like, I think that I think as much as she is possible of having connection, I think is attracted to him and wants to be a part of a family. But this obsessive, my goal is more important than anything, has turned him into just a laughable prop for her endgame at the same time, is the way I take it. How do you feel about, do you think Dedra really cares about Syril?
No. And Tony Gilroy said that she's not equipped to have a relationship. No. And the way that I took that is like, yeah, she's a psychopath, and you know, psychopaths, sociopaths, they're not capable of really feeling in that way. Like, I mean, that true connection, everything is very like self-serving. So I think perhaps like animalistic attraction, like the sexual attraction, sure, very surface level. I don't think that she actually has any true feelings for him. She feels incredibly superior to him, and it's all just a game for her.
Yeah, I think I think that follows up on the dinner scene from the last arc, where he was. You can kind of look at it as fist pumping because Edie is so awful that when Dedra smacks her down, it's very rewarding and cathartic. But it does feel like, no, he's my toy now.
Right.
He's my prop now, not yours anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
anxiety's hers, right? The great finger hand twitch she's got going behind her back when Edie shows up last time out, and it's like, yeah, this is just as much for her as it is for Syril, right? She's not just standing up for her man. She's like, all right, I'm making a deal with you here. Let's make a deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ken, how do you feel about this sort of theme of corruption? And like, I not to bang on about it too much, but it feels like the idea of the Skywalker saga has always been, like we talked about last week, we did this together. What won the rebellion?
Mhm.
The fact that Han couldn't believe that anyone would come to save him. They win again and again by saving one another, even though it's frightening being in the battle together that they might be
Mhm.
lost. Everything again and again is about we won because we were in this together and because we cared about one another. And the picture here of the Empire, but also every element of rebellion is the opposite of that. Of yes, I love you, but also you're my weapon.
Yep. Chewie, Reed, Rescue and Res the Skywalker, 3PO, I'm looking at my friends, all those kind of things. Yeah, I put down the one thought of these episodes being a little bit of the cost of a bad how. We love analyzing the why, both in terms of in story and the artist deciding to put these stories together. But just looking at this and beyond just Luthen, stop banging on Luthen here. Apologize to Luthen fans. Again, someone who I do feel is important to the rebellion, along with Saul. But yeah, you talk about the corruption, but this is we often talk about community. This comes up through all the Star Wars discussions. It's about community. It's about the loss of community. The reason we talk about it is because it's true. It's at the center of everything in Star Wars. But these episodes in this season, I think Diego Luna said it too, Jen. You might have saw an interview I saw where this is a love story this year. This is love stories.
Mhm.
And it's connection and it's care and it's concern. And it is having those things that, yes, sometimes get in the way, and how you wrestle with that is important too, which is why you said earlier, Joseph, like there's a lot of indecision or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think Cassian's probably right about the gore. Like in the Gorman front, like they're not doing things right. I don't know about this, but I love Luthen coming back with, but they finally want to do something. Like that's it's analyzing the value of how, but also there's a lot of bad how going on,
Mhm.
including the inexperience gets sent to killed. We got another guy trying to play warrior, brings a gun when he's not supposed to, all those kind of things. But yeah, so when you're wearing down, you talk about corruption of the family unit of the community. I think it's all about that. Stems from the bad how, the bad how of fighting.
Mhm.
Good.
There's good
Uh,
hows.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think that's one of the huge themes too of the. I called it sort of what are we fighting for, or bad how
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
another great way to say it. I think that it's fascinating to me in this arc that I think Mothma and the Gormans are both centered on the actual values. What is the injustice? Almost everybody else is just trying to survive or kind of do the next thing. Mothma and the Gormans are the only ones in these episodes who are actually talking about why are we fighting? What is being violated? Um, there's a great scene with Mothma gripping the Senate pod during that
Mm-hmm.
disingenuous, oath of allegiance to the
Right.
Empire. She spends the first episode and the rest of the arc, she's trying to roll back the PORD, which is the aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
over the top fascistic security protocol that was put in place as a response to Aldani, which is
Mm-hmm.
what the crackdown that Luthen wanted, that Mothma
Mm-hmm.
is trying to roll back. We get to see that she's stuck, that she can't make a difference in the Senate anymore. But there's one great scene where she's trying to whip the votes in failing, where she lists what are the actual values, what are we actually fighting for. She lists that senator, the things that they used to vote with her on. Sector boundaries,
Mhm.
civil liberties, personal freedoms, respect for local traditions. She's on top of this truth that the Empire is cooking crime stats on planets in saying that they're using fake numbers to say planets have a bunch of crime, because those are the planets that the Empire wants to crack down on. Mothma is the only one in this arc who's talking about, like, what are the actual injustices being performed by the Empire, and what are we going to do about them? She is focused on the big picture. The Gormans are fighting for their culture, for the horrible disrespect of, one tragedy being overshadowed by this armory. Their Gormans are focused on being, afraid for their loved ones, all that. So I think those characters remind us of, okay, we need to keep the big picture. What are we actually trying to do? In contrast, I feel like everybody else is just spinning plates and trying to maintain. We talked about the Luthen and Clea both kind of freaking out, we're drowning, and you keep pretending it's all under control. But I thought it was great that their big mission for this arc, the one accomplishment that the creators wanted to show us of this year of rebellion, is removing a listening device that they never got much information from and couldn't agree on anyway. And then they joke about doing something actually substantive, of killing Krennic. So like the picture of what has Luthen accomplished with all this, removing a not useful thing that almost got him caught. He's just surviving. That's the whole picture of Luthen in this year of rebellion. The picture with Saw is one of my favorite parts is they're leaving the car, they're never coming back. He claims that they didn't fall into an Imperial trap and they're not actually going to go make that raid. And he makes that speech of like, we're not going there, we're not going to be caught, and everybody cheers like he accomplished something. And all he accomplishes is, we're not going to go do a thing. And everybody's like, F yes, cheering him for not doing a thing. And then, hey, maybe the Rhydonium is going to be important to the rebellion, but it just seems like, he's robbing a drugstore. So that is a picture of nothing is being accomplished. I would argue that the Bix arc in this episode starts with her feeling the horror of what they have to do, of Cassian clearly having killed a younger boy who was an Imperial because he saw Bix's face, and Bix being haunted by that. And then it ends with Bix killing Gorst, which I think is beautifully complicated because as audience members, Gorst is awful. We feel for Bix. We want her to get any kind of closure. After 3 episodes of nobody accomplishing anything, and that being the point, something gets accomplished and they walk away with an explosion behind them. And so there's this temptation to me to see it as cool. But I think what's happening in the arc is Luthen sees that Cassian isn't hard enough, Bix isn't hard enough, and if they're going to be together, I got to give them something to do. And so I'll give Bix this mission of vengeance. And maybe it accomplishes something to kill Gorst. But I think what it really accomplishes is just getting her more attuned to what Luthen needs. And in the grand scheme of Star Wars philosophy, the most productive thing that happens is vengeance. Like, don't get me wrong, I cheered for it. But it is just brutal, non-Jedi vengeance kill that Luthen sends her on. Sorry for the long monologue. I'm being affected by the monologues in Andor. I apologize.
Skies.
I think the Gorman front plays into all this, but Ken, I want to get your big picture thoughts. How do you feel about this being an arc where the portrait of the rebellion is, it's either stalled or acting out vengeance?
Yeah, look, I there's the Star Wars way to discuss it. There's the history of it, which Gilroy has said several times. I'm just an amateur historian who probably goes down Wikipedia wormholes at night when I'm sleeping, and I respect that. Game recognizes game. So this is just like analyzing, like you're talking about earlier about, well, what are we like? What is this about? Like, what happens after we tear it all down? Not just in terms of building a government, but who's left, what we're fighting for. So to me, it's not like the whole drive of the series of the 2 seasons, but as a fan of Star Wars and the world and the story, I look at Luthen, I look at Saw, I look at Mon, and this is always kind of this three-way dance. And we have the benefit of knowing that in a way, Mon's way moves it forward. But I think these episodes dealt with that, like you're talking. It was in a very upfront fashion. Saw Gerrera has now, by the time we meet up with him in Rogue One, he's been doing this for 19 years, if not more. But in terms of the Galactic Empire, the flags that go up at the Galactic Empire, he starts fighting within 1 second. But he hasn't moved that ball down the field. Luthen's probably moved the ball down the field a lot, like you said. Gorse being gone, I don't have a problem with that. That's a good kill. But the ball, they've stalled out at the red zone. I'm not full sports metaphors. They can't get in the end zone. And then you have Mothma going around going, why are you no longer on my side to all the politicians? This was all normal. And like the representative from Gorman, I'm not saying it's right, but I understand him going, everyone stop. I don't want anyone, don't put the Empire, don't put his gaze on us anymore. Out of this fear, it's fear. And they also don't know that, I'm sorry, your planet's been chosen for essentially the Death Star program. So good luck to you. He doesn't know that. No one really knows that. So, but without that, he's just, again, not saying I agree with him, but I understand that for a second I've asked my people to slow down, stop. That's not working. And so to have Mothma kind of getting all these pieces together and going, we're stalling out here. So how am I going to have, what's going to move it forward? Beyond just the politics, and we know she emerges as that kind of leader. So I love focusing on those three as we move forward and analyze it. Yeah, in terms of rebellion, who's actually going to be getting the check marks by the box? And we know it's Mothma and more of her way, though other people will be around it.
And I think that's part of what's so important about that exchange between Luthen and her about, is there vital information your cousin needs to know? Like, yes, I love her. I think there's that sense of like, I'm fighting for a world where I don't need to worry about Vel, and she's the aunt to my daughter that she needs, and not just a tool for you to move across a board. Yeah. Jennifer, how do you feel about the picture of the rebellion stalling out?
I didn't actually view it as that. I felt like it was just kind of more, they're planting the seeds for the next thing. They have now encountered some roadblocks, and some people are taking action, not necessarily effective. Mon Mothma is trying to get her fellow senators to see what's going on, which is very timely. Maybe that's why I just felt like, okay, this is the bubbling underneath the surface and trying to regain control. Luthen feels out of control. It's like let's recalibrate and let's figure out a path forward. So I didn't see it as they were like failing in that sense. I saw it more as just like a plot device. Like these episodes are setting up the next thing. That's kind of how I saw it.
The big thing.
Less about within the universe and more about like from a writing perspective, where are we going with the story?
No, I agree with that. I think it is absolutely like one of the, you got to have the dark moments where things don't work, the complications. But I feel like I feel like because it's tied to the intimacy, the ideas of intimacy and how are we going to fight this, and tied to Luthen and Saw's perspective. I think if this was a story about, the rebels from the show Star Wars Rebels, and we had an arc where they just can't get anything done, I would feel like that's maybe like a Clone Wars episode with the moral of like, keep fighting because you never know what day you're going to win. Like, and I do feel like that is a part of the story, but I think because we're spending these episodes are spending so much time on how do we fight, and is it possible that Luthen in Saw's way is stalling because it isn't the right way forward, that people are giving in to the dark side, they're giving in to fear, they're giving in to a lack of connection, they're handing themselves to authoritarianism, and I think the way Mothma constructs the rebellion offers people hope and connection and something to actually fight for. And I think that sort of that sweaty desperation we're feeling from the current leaders of Luthen and Saw is partially because they've lost the thread and they don't know on an emotional level what they're fighting for. For me, it feels it absolutely structural, like you're saying, and very, very, like Andor always is, very, very realistic. Of like, yeah, it's a slow boil, and maybe this will lead to a thing. Maybe the killing of Gorst, like, hey, he was going to do that program. Maybe that's one of the things that turns the tide. Absolutely. I think on a personal level, it's Luthen trying to make Bix hard by giving her a vengeance assignment.
Jen, who are you following into battle? Are you going to go with the Burning Man partisans? Going to go with the...
I mean, these are very like, right. There's different philosophies, and I would never go with Saw, and I would never go with Luthen, because like they just want to f crap up, right? That's really what they want to do. Yes. Burn it all down. And there's a lot of people like that are like, let's burn it all down. And I'm more of the thought of like, let's try and like, let's take this other road and try and convince these senators to get them on our side. Let's work within the system and try and change the system from within, rather than being like, let's blow everything up. I mean, that's just how I personally believe. But that's why Mon Mothma, as we know, is going to emerge as this leader of the rebellion, because she has the values. She's sharing the why of why anybody would want to sacrifice their life. I mean, Luthen's right. Like, yeah, the Gorman people are finally rising up, which is great, but they need a little help. They need a little direction. They need a leader to focus it, right? And that's what Mon Mothma is going to emerge as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Gorman front, because I thought that was like the most complex of, and the most, as you were saying, Jen, frightening real world stuff in there that we can relate to right now. Of senators going, yeah, of course I don't believe in this, but I'm just not going to say anything because that's where I think the wind is blowing. That confrontation between Luthen and Cassian in the beginning of the third episode, where I think Cassian is advocating for them not to do anything, which is yet another example of this sort of stalling energy in these episodes, is coming from a place of compassion. He's thinking about all the loved ones he's lost, and he knows they can't fight, and he's just imagining, like he says, like, oh great, you steal these weapons, you prove it's an armory, everybody kind of knows it's an armory, and maybe people on Gorman get a little more outraged, but you and your family have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and so maybe Cassian is being sort of soft, and you have that perspective where you want people to rise up and take action, and like Luthen says, at first I'm fist pumping for Luthen when he's like, yeah, they're a rich planet, they're a well-known planet, we need, the galaxy needs to see them rise up and see that the Emperor can be fought. But then I think the twist that gets really complicated is then, and Luthen says basically, yeah, and if they rise up, the Empire is going to crush them, they'll all die, but other people will see that fire. And I think that's the part where it's like, okay, it's so complicated. I want the Gormans to do something. I'm with Cassian being afraid of them, but the Empire's going to crush them anyway. But Luthen's being just totally cold and calculating that it's his decision for a planet full of people to die so that the rebellion gets some fuel. Ken, what are your thoughts on the Gorman front part of it?
No, great summary. I think I'm with them all at points, including Ryland, of just calmly, no longer patiently, but trying to impress upon the people around him the right way to do it. And you have the one guy, Lamine, I think, or whatever his name is, who's I'm pretty sure has played a Russian before in some HBO show. And Ryland's played, shall we say, for YouTube, a German soldier in a Tarantino film. In Inglourious Basterds. I empathize with him. Like, hey, no, let's talk. Let's not shout. Let's fight. We got to get involved. And we do have a lot of green rookies. Yeah, we have a lot of, but they're eager now. And this generation, I got 19 generations behind my family here. This generation's going to fight for the future. I love that, and I think Vel's right. The heartbreak of the death. I loved that speech. To that little whimpering boy who wanted to play soldier. Because I do also think, like, I don't spin it off the real world too much, but like sometimes I hear some folks, I'm like, yeah, but you ain't never thrown a punch, man. Are you ready for that? Like, get ready for that.
Yeah.
because that's what might have to happen. And I'm a little Luthen in that regard. But I really love Cassian coming here and being like, "You're all going to be crushed," and then I got 800,000 people dead, or whatever it is. Not everyone maybe is going to get squished there, but and we know what it's leading to. We know the Gorman massacre's coming. We don't know the details of it right now. We don't have the screener, so we do not know how that's going to play out in detail. But to your question, Joseph, much like this episode, I don't have the answer. I look at all of them. I go, you're all doing something right, but somehow it's maybe adding up to wrong, and I worry. And I don't. At the end of the day, Luthen's great. It'll burn bright, like. Yeah, he wants to light the greatest fire the North has ever seen to get everyone's attention. I got it. But, I've got to spend FaceTime with the Gormans, with the Gore and the Gorman front. And I want those people to be crushed just to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on that side in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I find myself kind of really rooting for what is the name of the man on Gore who's leading the charge?
Yeah, Caro Rylance, and then his daughter Enza Rylance. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I love how he's like, yeah, I'm a person of privilege and but this is wrong and something has to be done because this is such an affront. And I love his disgust at Cassian and advising him to do nothing. And I think that's given extra weight by there's the moral debate between Cassian and Luthen about how much to value the lives versus how much to value the sacrifice of the lives. But then we as the audience also have this extra burden of knowing the Empire is going to destroy your planet and crush you no matter what. So, and they want you to rise up because then it'll give them an excuse to crush you, but they're going to crush you one way or another. And if someone's going to crush you one way or another, why not fight? Which it feels like what Ryland really wants to do. Jennifer, how are you feeling about the complexity of the Gorman front, or who did you want to do what?
Well, they have to take action, and I mean, it's a no-win situation. But the hope of it is that by them rising up, maybe they can inspire other planets in the galaxy, other people, and give the hope that the rebellion needs to go on. And that's really the point of it. They can't just lay down and take it. This is terrible. They can't do that. And we won't do that. But it's like, well, at the same time, you don't want people to suffer. And it's like, Luthen is like, burn it all down, let it burn brightly, whatever. And it's like, well, I don't want to see kids dying and suffering and whatnot. So it's a little complicated. What message are you trying to send? I would send a message of hope.
Yeah, no, and I think maybe that debate about, well, what's Cassian's argument of what's the point? Everybody kind of knows it's an armory. I'm like, well, it's kind of how I feel about things in the real world now. It's like, I think one of the most important things is as many people as possible should be fully informed of what is really truly going on, and that a first step in hopes of avoiding any possibility of violence is, does everyone have the information? Like, is Cassian right that everybody on Gorman kind of already knows that it's an armory, or is Ryland's right that no, getting the word out would be the non-violent first proactive step.
Ooh, that was a great moment with Syril and Edie on their holo call when he was like, "You're just listening to that propaganda or whatever."
Imperial news.
Yeah, Imperial news. I was like, "Oh, that's so good! It's so good because it's like if that's the information that the galaxy is getting about the Gorman people, it's like, well, yeah, they're not going to have any sympathy for that planet."
It was side note. It was just such a good moment where I was like, "Oh, is Syril turning?" And it's like in my head, I'm like, nothing on the show is that simple. But actually, sometimes I think Andor serves up the themes in a more direct way than other things, and that's a different conversation. But I love that moment, Jen, where I was like, I've had this conversation with my mom.
Well, and it's like, as much as Syril is playing at spy, he's actually doing a really good job, because I from his perspective, he loves Imperial Fox News, right? And he's just like, what would a person that I disdain say? Because that's what I want to be overheard being. I know all their talking points. I can I'm sure he had that conversation with Dedra. I know exactly what to say to make those rebels on Gorman think I'm one of them. I'll complain about the Imperial news.
I got this. And he like runs
Yeah.
off to, I'm going to do it, Deidre.
They have Imperial news derangement syndrome, and I'm going to let them know.
Oh.
Yeah. Last kind of big picture theme that I wanted to zero in on is, you know, there's the big political, there's the relationship and family stuff, but I feel like there's the real question of sort of loss of self and what is happening to your soul as an individual in the way that you choose to fight. Like Andor is our main character, our title character. We don't always spend as much time with him, but I thought this arc was a little bit more centered on Cassian. I thought it was all the Varian Sky stuff is really fun, but the fact that we get a clarification from Luthen that he's making up his own characters, his own backstories, and Varian Sky is like Luthen's backstory, right? This or mask of like just this kind of rich guy who only cares about the finer things and is just sort of, you know, flitting through life without any real cares, just kind of a man about town. That draws him even. It makes me feel like, oh, Cassian is at risk of becoming more like Luthen. We from the conflict in the first episode where Bix is upset with him about killing this younger Imperial boy, and he's saying the kind of the ruthless, like he chose, he put on the suit, and everybody who puts on the suit knows, and they deserve to die. So we're getting these pictures of Cassian losing some of his humanity or being willing to make his mind a sunless space and do the brutal, hard things that are necessary versus all of his compassion, his love for Bix, his fear for the Gormans, that conflict that he has with Luthen when he goes to see him at Luthen's shop, and he says, we are not droids, Luthen. And really key line to me when he says, Andor says to Luthen, I came with you to be part of something, not just this isolated solo killing machine for you. I came here to be a part of something, and you're just sort of isolating me as an assassin and an information collector, and the people that I'm doing this for, Bix and Willman, are they're tools or distractions. But I thought that this arc was really great to recenter Cassian's soul of how does he want to fight this battle? Who does he want to be? Jen, what were your thoughts on what Cassian is going through?
I feel like is leading up to the Cassian that we meet in Rogue One, who is much more jaded and hardened, and it made me realize, there's more people that are going to die. Certainly, I think Bix is going at some point here, and that's really what's gonna transform him completely into being more like a Luthen, which we're like you said, we're already seeing glimpses of that.
You have any other thoughts about the Varian Sky character, the disguise? There's so much fun with it. Any other feelings about it?
No. He did have a lot of fun, but it was a really interesting performance because it was almost like I could see Cassian chuckling about putting on this performance, which like how many layers are you adding onto it? Really, really cool. And it's a thing where I'm like, I wish I need to go back and watch that whole sequence because it's fun.
Yeah, I would love to watch it again too. Yeah, but just knowing what we know about Cassian, that he the culture that he came from was very rooted to the physical world, and this small group with their community rules, surviving by themselves. And then Ferrix is so coded as working class with its cultures and its traditions. So him sort of wearing this mask of, basically walking around pretending to kind of be Perrin, and disgusted by it and laughing at it at the same time is the great layers. Ken, how do you feel about the battle for Cassian's soul?
Yeah, I think it's a great way to look at it. Very centered in a show about Andor. I think it's been a wonderful ensemble that's been built around him. And last week, a little bit too much of our hero in handcuffs in the back of a ship while the rebels fought around him. Which I heard that. I heard that complaint a lot this week, actually, from people I know who are not in the space, who are just kind of fans, dedicated Star Wars fans. A lot of text conversations about he was just handcuffed in the back, and that's a very simplified way of it. We did almost 2.5 hours on the episodes last week, but to see him this week be very active, to have the emotions, all this stuff. I love that scene with Luthen again, just like, hey man, what you doing? And then just Luthen being like, it would have been interesting if she didn't tell you. Like he's just drifting off into battle plans, which might have been needed. But to have him play, upstairs, downstairs in his own soul, going to Gorman, I loved it. It was great to see this character that we know that's all going to come crumbling down. He's going to change. Those moments in Rogue One we talk about, pulling down the sniper scope, standing next to Jin and saying, I need this to mean something. These are the connections that are being built, and these are the connections that are going to be lost in some way. Him having that moment of, it's in general sense, but it's easier. He's kind of got this. It's easier to fight alone. Not so he's going to break up with Bix or send her on her way or whatever, but just this like. It's that kind. It's a boss dash vibe. Luthen, like, let me clear my head. I do think he doesn't know which way to go. I think he's got mixed feelings on Gorman. But I think he for his point of view, he's right. But Luthen is right from other points. So it's been fascinating to focus on him in that wonderful powder blue suit or whatever. That's not quite powder blue. It's more of a royal blue. But
yeah. And I think this is why I'm so on about Luthen is that it's Cassian's direct headbutting with him, but lots of specific language about identity got me on this, battle for the soul theme. When Andor says we are not droids, Luthen, in response to like, I have relationships. I care whether you send Bix on a mission. She's not just a chess piece for you to isolate from me. Luthen's kind of sad response is, we are not who we were when we started. Again, acknowledging like a choice to change, to not be some of the things that you're fighting for. And then it's really echoed in the Cinta and Vel conversation. Vel clearly got injured, maybe physically, maybe psychologically, to the point where she realized her whole thing to Vel in the first season was you are in our relationship comes second to the rebellion. The cause is everything. And what caused this beautiful warming is a realize of that was wrong. I need you. I want you. Our connection is what matters. And in that conversation where they're strategizing, but then also, literally, disrobing and becoming more vulnerable and honest, Cinta says, I don't know who I am sometimes. It's another statement of identity. And Cinta places that directly on Luthen and says, we're worth more to him separately than together, which echoes what Luthen said to Cassian. Is like, yeah, I went around to Bix to see if I could move you two around the board as separate pieces because you're more valuable to me than that way. So I just felt like there were a lot of pointed lines about identity, about changing identity, and a lot of fingers pointed directly back at Luthen of like, you are keeping Cinta and Vel apart. You want to separate Cassian and Bix. You are separating Mon and Vel from one another. And that is what's getting me so Luthen obsessed, that he is actively working to separate people in a story that is ultimately going to be about, hey, the rebels won because they worked together with the Ewoks. Because they trusted one another. It feels very pointed. Ken?
I would like a smash cut to Bright Tree Village right now and have Beau Willimon write a scene for the Ewoks.
I hope Luthen lives and he's on Andor going, yeah, all worked out.
Before low grade Sherpa, it's a fight of silk. Would you be interested in it?
Imagine like just the camera's on Wicked's face and then you pull back and Luthen's just like, you need to make your mind to sun in space, Wicked. Burn the forest down, Wicked. Drum on their helmets. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Ken, any other thoughts about the sort of the overall theme of Battle for the Soul?
Yeah, no, man, this was a big episode, the connection and the building trust through empathy versus the collecting of the pieces and just the complicated layers around it. That's what this show gets a lot of credit for, and it should. I think the best moment for me in that regard, we talked about some of the other ones, but I love the little moment where Varian Sky is checking into his hotel. And believe me, I have so much excitement when I check into hotels. It's my favorite thing. And he's looking out and he's asking the question, he's getting information, and when he realizes the guy there has been hurt, he has that moment where it comes down. And that's the real Cassian. Right, that's the real Cassian going, I'm sorry. He gives him a nice tip. Sure, good, great. But I think that's a moment where he's got the ability to connect, and that's not playing that against Luthen, Saw, or anyone. That's his strength, and that's what I love seeing, and that's what this is very much about. Building through connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've talked about Saw, but I thought that his Rhydonium speech was so powerful. I remember in the trailer when we just saw the scene of like, you're here now, you're ready to fight. It was kind of like fist pumping of like, is Saw gonna give somebody the speech they need to have the bravery to be maybe willing to make a sacrifice? Instead, he's like, this is my take. So kidnap one of Cassian's family members and gave him a speech of saying, we are an explosive fuel. I exist to burn my own insides and to splash the acid that is me on the Empire. There was nothing rational about it. It was, I am a fire and you should be too. Let's burn everything that we touch. There's great scenes with, like, in that Rebels, the one with the hologram where he chides Ma and Mothma for not being proactive enough. That's a true, like, ideological, like, got to be cautious, but it is a rebellion and violence is a part of it. And there's no sense of the ideological here. It's just make yourself an explosive combustible fuel and burn everything. It was powerful.
He's a cult leader.
Yeah. Jennifer, any other big picture thematic thoughts or Battle for the Soul thoughts for you?
No, I love seeing everyone's double identity and really wrestling with shifting back and forth between those identities and wrestling with whether they are able to do that. And that great moment with Cassian, like you're talking about, Ken, where he's able to just kind of drop the act for a moment and just connect, because not all of them are able to do that. Until they're eventually, it feels like their second identity kind of consumes their real identity, and just there we go.
Yeah,
I think that's great. There's so much about a lack of trust, and I think it goes along with losing yourself. And I'm so excited to see Mothma break from the Senate. There's all the canon of it, and there's the like, but also like she's somebody who really has to wear a mask. It's a little thinner because she's playing the role of the agitator, so she can say those things to Krennic, and they can have that fun fight. But I'm looking forward to her freeing herself from the mask, which is, I think, a part of that. Her run from the Senate and her speech in Rebels is getting rid of the mask. Totally. Very excited for that.
Can't wait.
All right, let's talk about some of the canon connections. A wild Bail Organa appears. I'm sure most people watching or listening to this probably saw the same Tony Gilroy quote that according to Tony Gilroy, Jimmy Smits is unavailable. And that he wanted to introduce Bail in a quick scene in this arc because Bail is going to have a larger role, and he wanted all of us podcasters and Star Wars fans to have the but Bail and the actor conversation now, so that next week we can just talk about the wonderful adventures of the character. Jennifer, how are you feeling about seeing Bail Organa, about the actor change, all that?
Big fan of Benjamin Bratt. I was so happy to see him. I did have a moment where I was like, okay, there's not many Latino actors that they can pull from the 80s and 90s. I mean, he's been acting for a long time. Blood in, blood out. Highly recommend it.
Demolition Man, 1992.
Oh my gosh. Of course, what was it, Law and Order? Anyways, love him. Great choice to play this character. I'm excited to know that there's going to be more with him. Of course, I love Jimmy Smits. Iconic in the role. But I think it's important for us fans to get used to, let's keep the story and the characters going and find an actor that's right to portray the role. Because it would be a shame to not include Bail. right? Just because they were like, oh, we don't want to recast. No. And certainly don't do a whatchamacallit, not deep cut, a fake.
Deep fake.
Deep fake. Don't do it if you can avoid it. And here we have a wonderful actor that they brought in to portray the character. And I'm so happy that he's here.
Yeah. I feel the same way of like, I had one of those moments of like, yeah, because I love Bale and I love Jimmy Smits. But then it's like, yes, the character, it's more important to me that the character is part of this story. And I try to just watch the episodes. I immediately rewound and watched it. And Benjamin Bratt did a great job of doing some of the cadence that Jimmy Smits has done with the character. I thought he did a phenomenal job. So I'm really excited to see meteor storytelling with the character. Ken, how do you feel about it?
Look, I think it was the right call. If you couldn't bring Smits in, we'll address right now. There's been rumors going around that Jimmy Smits has an illness, and that's part of the reason, and that's unconfirmed. I tried to do the deepest dive I could today. There was one article that says it, and there's a CNN interview of him saying, but then you can't find it. It's out there, so that could be possible. Could be possible. He is coming out in the new Dexter reboot as Miguel Prado again, but. All that to say is there could be reasons beyond just something to shake your fist and gripe at. But if you're shaking your fist and griping at it, it's because Jamie Smits was wonderful in the role. We have the stuff in Kenobi that is some of my favorite in Star Wars recently and of all time. But I think this is a character that's important. And if you need to find the solution, this is a great solution. With you, Jen, wouldn't want to see this handled any other way. And I just would not want to miss out on this character. He belongs there. I was even last season like, where is he? Like, what's going? Like, he's there. We know he's there. So I think it's great. And I kind of, I don't know. I kind of love that. Again, Gilroy won me over. This, not that he needed to. He doesn't need my approval. But this last press, he's just the way he's like, yeah, I know everyone's going to talk about it. So let's just do it now. I put in this scene where it's like, yeah, there he is. Cool. Get on with it. And I love that. I'm good with that. Yeah.
And hearing Perrin say Brea.
Yeah.
Like, I was happy for more acknowledgement of Brea. Obviously, she was featured in Kenobi. But I had this mixed emotional reaction to like, yay, anything that mentions Brea. Great. Maybe Brea will show up. And I was also like, yeah, you're a little bit better this season, Perrin, but take Brea's name out of your mouth, you asshole.
It's also, I want to point out, too, we're all old enough to remember when Jimmy Smits was a recast of Bail Organa. So, hey, recast happened.
So I had written down that there's pod racing on a screen.
Yeah.
But I forgot which scene. But there was pod racing.
It's when Syril goes back to the office and he tries to, and the guards are there. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, the guards are watching the pod racing. We've talked about pod racing a lot. Big fans here. Jennifer, how did you feel about seeing somebody in the Imperial era just watching some pod racing on their little screen at work?
Well, I totally missed it. So what I really loved was the talk show. Because I've always
Ruby Wax.
I was saving that for last because I wanted to talk to you about it so much. But let's talk about it now. Good morning, Coruscant. I want your opinions on this one, Jennifer.
I just loved it that it was kind of like it was a silly talk show, like The View or whatever it was. You know, they're just gossiping or whatever they're doing, and I was like, yay! Finally, show us some more reporters. And Star Wars, if you'd like to cast me as an anchor on the HoloNet, please, I'm free.
Yes,
reporting live from Coruscant. Yeah, that's my pitch.
Yeah, I thought of you because it is the reporter thing, because it is, them actually watching some television. I think it's fascinatingly complicated that in all of Palpatine's plans, he's like, yes, and the news should continue and it should be fluffy and it should be sort of, like The View or, seems like some combination of The View and Entertainment Tonight, but with bigger hair of like, let's talk about everything that's going on Coruscant, but in like the sort of silliest, toothless presentation, so that when people try to bring up what's going on in Coruscant, it's something to be worried about. It's like, but you're getting your news from this kind of silly morning show. It makes it makes you sound like the wacko to go like, I think Good Morning Coruscant is lying to me. Like, yeah. So there's that really fascinating, like, it's a great propaganda tool. It had holiday special vibes to me. Like,
yes.
Everybody has like Andor's so serious, and like the holiday special is some of the wildest things. The hollow of Diana Carroll, right? I felt like they were going to cut to that. Is like, and as our guest today, we have Gormanda on a cooking segment on Good Morning Coruscant.
That's exactly what should be.
How did you feel about the holiday special vibes?
Maybe that I didn't put it into words then, but now that you're talking about it, like with the wigs and the vibe, it did feel very much like a gourmanda, which felt like, those morning shows, whatever, Regis and Kathy Lee, and like those kinds of like Hoda and Jenna, I think is the new one, right? Like it felt like that. Oh, I could totally see. I imagine we're going to get more. I feel like we're going to get more TV in Andor, maybe. I don't know. Somewhere else.
So.
Gosh, it's just so fun.
Yeah. No, they've done it. They've done a good job in it, and it's comedian Ruby Wax playing the roles. But remember, last year, even just the Syril, and that's not the first time we've had cereal, blue milk, or food in Star Wars, but it was just that normal workaday. This is what you live with when you're in this world. I thought Skeleton Crew did that too, well. But you had the news reporter last year, where Jen's going to be next time around, and you had this, and even going to the there was a split second when I thought Dexter was going to show up. I thought I was going to have to call Brian Ward at like 2 a.m. his time to be like, it happened, because they go to that diner. It's just, they have done, and it's part of their world building, but they have done just like, this is what it would be like to live on Coruscant. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. And it was one of those like very real world things of like, Biggs is stuck at home, exhausted and depressed, watching crappy television. Was like, they have the prices right on Coruscant. Yeah, that's what you're watching next, Biggs.
Exactly.
Late night commercials. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Exactly. I just saw this. So I scrolled down, but Ruby Wax plays both characters, of course. But it's Moffy and Toffee. So Jen, get your Moffy and Toffee cosplay ready.
Yeah, so good. So good.
And Toffee.
A couple other quick canon things. The Rhydonium has obviously been in Star Wars a lot, but I really love the detail that Rhydonium's first appearance is in the D Squad arc of Clone Wars. Direct connection from Meeber Gascon.
Oh my gosh.
Deadly serious Luthen Rail.
Oh my gosh.
That Meeber exists. Meeber lives. Meeber lives.
What?
Meeber lives. Yeah, I need Saw to encounter Meeber. That would be so great.
Are you taking hits again? Saw, you sniffing the glue? Come on, Saw. That's amazing. I didn't know that. I forgot about that connection. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then of course, Saw describes the Rhydonium as his sister. Clone Wars arc, we meet him. And one of the things that sets him on his path is the death of his sister. Ken, do you have any feelings about Saw calling Rhydonium his sister?
Yeah, it's part of why I'm buying the ticket to the Saw show, and those again are just such wonderful, powerful episodes of the Clone Wars, ripe with real world politics and history, and it just fits in here. And I didn't expect him to say Steela, but I just even knowing that it's there. It's one of those things that it's a little bit of a canon checklist, and if you're writing the character, and someone's going to say, hey, here, what do we got to play with this character? His sister died here. Oh, that's great. To use it in this way, it was really powerful, bizarre, weird, tragic. Love watching him.
Yeah, love it. Any thoughts for the Rhydonium being compared to his passed on sister?
Oh, I was like, oh my gosh, it was a reference to his sister. That's what I thought. But then I loved that. I was like, oh, that's why he has problems breathing and needs oxygen later. He has messed up his lungs, and that's why he's gone mad, right? All those details.
It's gonna be interesting to see maybe if we actually get a little bit more. I think we will, but like just. If by the time we meet him in on Jeddah, he's just been burning himself up from the inside. It's not even that he's lost a leg in battle, but he's just he's been huffing the paint, man. Like that is very interesting if they played that out.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna Rhydonium is the gateway to Bor Gullet, I think.
We always joke that he takes hits off of it, right? So yes.
So it's the delivery in Rogue One. He's like, I can't remember the exact line, but he's talking about how communing with Bor Gullet will make you lose your mind. A tendency to lose that mind. Such great stuff. And I love that in his speech he talks about being exposed to it as a part of being imprisoned, and then deciding to become that pain is like it's powerful.
Very self-destructive.
Well, I guess not self-destructive, but destructive. We should mention Yeah, the Tarkin
Yeah.
massacre.
Right, right. But I did think that when I was thinking about Rogue One, I always thought it was like that it was just from battle, like all of his
Mm.
wounds and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
knowing that he kind of did that to himself, from this trauma, from everything that he
Amazing.
suffered,
It's
to
amazing.
basically self-medicate, it's just like, whew, wow, deep.
Great
Yeah,
stuff.
and we haven't talked a lot about it, but it goes with Bix's self-medicating of,
Oh, we'll talk about that. Oh, we'll talk
okay.
about that. I
Okay,
got
great. Please.
I
Yes.
got
Yeah.
thoughts. Well, no, that's the questions and concerns area.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
I'm
But
saving
you're
it.
right. You're right. I think that is really important. I think maybe it goes back to, again, like feeling about this kind of thing as a battle for the soul. And what are you actually fighting for? Why are you doing this? Are you like Mothma? Where like, here are the things the Empire is doing, and here are practical ways to try to head them off at the pass. Whereas Saw is just losing himself, right? He's
Mhm.
doing this to himself. He's just like, I'm furious, and I never want to not be furious, and I want to infect other people with fury, and I just want to lash out. Is
Mhm.
a pretty stark contrast. Anyway, for Canon, wanted to just touch briefly on the Tarkin massacre. I really only know about this because our wonderful friend Alex Damon did great breakdowns of the history of the Gorman massacre, and that's the thing from the EU where Tarkin lands a whole Star Destroyer on a bunch of people, and so they modified that to a shuttle early on in the Imperial reign. He did that a
Yeah.
couple years in, when
Yeah.
in theory maybe you're still trying to boil the galactic frog slowly, not
Mhm.
Tarkin.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Ken, any thoughts on the Tarkin massacre being included in the show?
Yeah, no, again, just love the way they approached it. Love that they had that, and it also speaks to sometimes there's understandable angst where you're like, hey, we already know something. It could be Legends or EU, but you're like, hey, we already have this. We already have not only attached to it, we understand some meaning behind it. And what are you going to do with that? And you introduce the Gorman Massacre, and Tony's been saying, and a lot of other people have been saying, we know it exists, what's never really been defined. And you might be over here going, yeah, but they used it for their story and the way they wanted. They pulled what they wanted from the history of it, but then honored it, but also beyond just honored it, really, like I said, packed a punch behind it. And made it personal. It is not just a scene from a comic book you kind of remember. And that is why I know we've got one looming with K2SO. There was already a comic explaining how they met. It was okay. It was a one shot, and you kind of forgot about it. I think they're going to honor that in the right way. And there's good ways to do that. There's angst behind some of the other ways. There's also good questions about some of the other changes in canon that could pop up. But I've never seen it as a friend texted me last week and said, hey, and there's again someone who's on the outside, they're in the business, but they're on the outside of Star Wars discussion. They said, I need to talk to you about Andor. I love it. It's great. It just destroys Star Wars lore. And I wrote back a funny, jokey FAQ. Hello, you've reached hotline number. And the first thing I said is enough. There's not one thing in modern Star Wars, Disney era Star Wars that has destroyed lore. It has not. It has only expanded it, offered different perspectives, just made it more real and robust, and it's never just destroying lore. It just kind of drives me crazy. This Gorman Massacre is a great example of when it's done right for me. People argue, people this, so that, got it, great, got it, but I'll stand by that till the day I huff a Rhydonium till I die. It's never crushed lore. It's only expanded it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd really agree with that. I think this is a great example, much like this was a real Tony Gilroy and Jon Favreau, I think, being aligned of like, well, if there's a wrinkle, maybe that's a gift of, well, you can't just do a Boba Fett show because there's this thing and the armor is a Cobb Vanth. Like, great, that's a gift. I'll make Cobb Vanth one of the coolest characters
Right.
ever to rock a scarf in Star Wars. Yeah. And I think this is the same thing of like, and it isn't just like, oh, let's kind of zig and zag to try to justify this. It's used so emotionally that the affront on Gorman is not just building an armory, it's building an armory over the shadow of a memorial for another massacre.
Right.
It's taking something and going, this doesn't have to be a wrinkle, it can be a gift. If there was multiple massacres on Gorman, what would that mean? How would the people be affected? And you get that great scene with the bellhop and understand. Yeah. Yeah, great stuff.
Mm.
Jennifer, you have any thoughts about the Tarkin massacre?
No, it's just one of those moments where I'm like, oh, well, I better go research that because I'm sure there's a lot on that. So, but it's my point is that it's okay. It doesn't take me out of it. Just like Kiadi age doesn't mean anything. I'm just going to look at what's presented on screen, and that's what I'm going to take as my new canon. I'm not going to be like wrestling with, well, that doesn't line up with, and this was in the EU. It's like, okay, come on. Like, are we going to really go down that road? Because if you watch Empire Strikes Back, it's a little awkward when Luke and Leia kiss, right? It's like knowing what we know. Like, come on, let's get out of that headspace. Just absorb the story that's presented on screen. And I mean, I'm a canon nerd about certain things, but this I didn't care.
Yeah.
Well, wait till I tell you who Bix and Cassian are. Oh, okay.
Can you imagine the next arc?
Oopsie.
Surprise.
Marvin didn't tell me that.
Yep. Stop looking for your sister.
Stop. I said stop looking for your sister.
Stop looking for your sister.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is not an actual prediction. I don't think. No, I won't speak for you, Ken. All right, questions or concerns? Jennifer, I would love to... go ahead. You got another canon?
I want to talk about the car. I was...
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Thrilled. Not a big moment. Thrilled that it was the car. Love that they were like, do we have the set still? Yeah, we have the set. Let's go the sets, but let's go rent the space. Set someone out there. I loved it. I also loved it because, and I fall victim to it, as I think I said, in the trailer, one of the trailers, you get the shot of now we know the guy shot in the head by Saw. We thought it was a rebel soldier, maybe on Yavin, and now looking at it, I'm like, oh, it was the car. It was so obvious to me. Why didn't I see it? And sometimes we love the new planets. It's not Lothal. It's Mina Rao. I love that it was the car. It got me I got me a little emotional. Got me a little Force Awakens emotional. I was like, that's going to be the spot, man. That's going to be a spot. It's key to the Star Wars story, and I love the use of it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I think that is great. And like Saw saying, we're never coming back here. Like, you're not, but you're not. Yeah, that was kind of the most winky Andor. Yeah. And maybe it was not intentional, but it had a little bit of like, I remember in 99, people kind of laughing at Palpatine saying, I'll follow your career with great interest to Anakin.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a little bit of that. I don't think it was intended, probably, but and we'll never see this place again. Like, except for in 2015, The Force Awakens. Anyway. Any other canon stuff?
No.
Okay, cool. All right. Questions or concerns? Jen, what were your thoughts?
All right. So I want to know, with the big storyline with her becoming basically what I would say is a drug addict, the way that they're portraying it, she's self-medicating, right? My question is, how much of an addict is she? Because it felt like they were leaning towards like she's really in it. But then if you're going to go down that road, then I don't believe that her mission with Dr. Gorst, I feel like then that should have been incorporated in that, whether it's a shaking of the hand or just layer that addiction in, because any true addict, it's not like it just suddenly goes away, right? So, but then I was like, well, maybe they're not trying to portray that. Maybe she's not a full-blown addict yet. Maybe she's just kind of like using it. She's in the beginning stages of her addiction. I don't know. I really had a difficult time. I like the choice. I think it's very real. But I had a problem with like the execution, not her performance, of course, because she's wonderful. But the actual like the layering and planting the seeds. I guess I don't know. What did you guys think? How far in her addiction, or did you even see her as an addict at all?
It definitely felt drug coded to me. But I think there's a kind of a vital piece of information that's missing of like, to me, of like, what is the Earth equivalent of that? Is she just like, they talk about it as a reasonable sleep aid?
Right.
Do they mean that?
Valium?
Is it like, is it like, is it NyQuil? Is it,
right.
Is it like she's having 2 cocktails a night and that's rough and that's not great, but she can pull herself out of it? Or is it that like, that's meth and she's taking it 7 times a day? She's taking it in the morning when she watches Good Morning Coruscant. She's like, I got the sense of, she isn't getting what she needs to heal. and only being on missions will heal, and she's in trouble, and it's sort of a shorthand for she's in trouble. But the sort of Earth analogy to what level of trouble, I don't know how I would read that.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, now that you've said it, Jen, I'm starting to have flashbacks to the early '90s picture Rush with Jason Patrick and Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yes, yes. Oh man,
maybe I didn't see it to that degree, but at the same time, the Nyquil thing is very funny because then maybe I've got a Bix problem too. But it is, played seriously. The way her face. They take the color out of her face.
Yeah.
I so I'm with you on that, Jen. And then I'd be with you on, well, is it all gone now? But I in rewatching the scenes today, I get where Joseph's coming from of it's like a Game of Thrones has got milk of the poppy. Are you taking too much milk of the poppy? Are you doing too much NyQuil? I mean, jokes aside, that's a thing, right? That could become a thing. I took it as she's clearly not sleeping. She's not resting. Her soul's up. The PTSD doesn't even describe what she's probably going through, and she wants to escape it all. And that's why that line of like, dreams go away, but they're worse when you stop taking it. Like, but going back to your point, Jen, then all right, so she can stop taking it. And is that what Luthen said true? And are we going to deal with that in any way?
Right.
Which does not undercut the end for me and the vengeance and victory that she gets at the end and that look on her face. And she looks healthier, right? In that final moment.
Yes. Right.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see. All right.
And they establish that the dreams come back when they're not on a mission. She doesn't have something to fill her mind. Right? She's just kind of living normal life. So I think there's also maybe a suggestion of Luthen's version of helping her from whatever level of addiction she has is keeping her on missions, and that there's almost a swapping for like you've been through too much and you need something to help you with it. So you're either going to take these drugs and watch Good Morning Coruscant, or you're going to go out on missions for me. Maybe almost like a swapping of, why don't you get addicted to doing missions for Luthen instead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like the real world. It's the real world part of me where I'm like, well, if you have an addiction, it doesn't go away. And sure, you can like, obviously like change it for healthier habits and things like that. But then it's like, I want to see that evolution. If you're going to introduce it, I'm going to want to go down that road. And maybe we will in the next few episodes where we're going to see, just considering everything that she's been through, it is absolutely realistic that she would be self-medicating in some way, And so, maybe it will come back.
Yeah, I hope so, honestly, because I think, to be clear on my Gorst opinions, he's a monster, and they make a thing of the Emperor knows he does great work and we want to make that bigger. So maybe they stopped, maybe that's the mind probe development. I can't remember the canon of the mind probe. So maybe that was a really great victory and they stopped some horrible Imperial torture technology. But I feel like also from that sort of personal lens, both arcs have featured a nightmare about him. So I'm wondering if the third arc in the first episode will have another, hey, the dreams about Gorst didn't go away because you killed him. Like maybe tactically you did the galaxy a service, but on a soul level, did it help you? I hope that story continues, and I feel like I agree with you. Since they went hard enough, I mean, that was the end beat of the first episode. So if we had been watching it weekly, we would have spent a week discussing what is that? How addicted is she? Because that was the end. That was it. It was not just a thing running in the background. It was given weight. So I think we are meant to wonder about it.
I thought about that too. If that first episode ends, right, with her at the window.
It's kind of the reveal that she's on it.
Yeah. We'd have a week of that. I'm kind of glad we didn't.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting. That was my only thing where I was just like, okay, this is the one time I actually have questions. Normally I'm like, but I'll just let it wash over me. But this, I was like,
I feel you.
I hope that they handle it responsibly and that she meets up with somebody else who's recovering, and we have a scene with Bix and Elon Sleazer-Begano.
There you go.
I thought you were going somewhere else. I was like,
No.
wait, what?
Joking.
Oh my gosh.
Joking.
Oh
Ken,
boy, that was, yeah.
do you have any questions or concerns?
No, definitely not in that regard. All the concerns that surround around are just my own experiences and life and watching. Look, even us deciding to delay our reviews by a day is interesting to note that it definitely didn't hurt us. One of our most listened to episodes, I think, talking to a lot of people I know, they just not getting a chance to watch these right away. And that's fine. But then I get a little in my head about the business and the numbers and the first day returns and this and that is a show success. Luckily, we don't have to worry about this one being renewed or not. Everything, we're done with that. But I like the strategy because I've been having fun now 2 weeks in. I think it works. We've had discussion on and off air, so we don't need to beat it in the ground here. But could just make these 90-minute movies, but they also didn't know. They made these, they shot these, wrote these, edited, put this out, and then Disney was like, let's put them all out as three at a time. So they didn't have that plan in their head. So it's worked for me, but it's been harder to take in, which has nothing to do with the quality. That's the only question or concern I have this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. This was a little question concern journey I went on. That wasn't really a question. These episodes, I think, I really loved them, even though it was hard to shovel down this delicious meal real fast late at night, like we talked about at the top of our episode. But the episodes were hard because these are hard issues, and you're watching people that you care about lose their soul and lose their loved ones and fear their loved ones, and knowing that Gorman is doomed. All these things are really, really hard. And I had a flash of, this is happening at the same time as Star Wars Rebels. And I kind of thought about, Vel's beautiful, horrible speech about, she was everything you daydream about, and just like the horror of it. And then I flashed to Zeb and Ezra juggling Melaroon fruit, and in that it just really made me think about presentation in Star Wars. Of Rebels is an animated show that is designed for kids to age up with it, and you can make kind of just jokes about, Andor gritty serious, Rebels got some silly fun, but then I really thought about who all the characters are in Rebels, and they've all been through horror too. Canon is the survivor of a massacre. Hera's homeworld has been occupied for decades. Zeb believes he's the sole survivor of his people. Sabine has guilt because she made a murder weapon that kills her own people. Like, what's actually going on with the Rebels is just as dark and horrible as anything happening to our heroes on Andor. It's just handled in a different tone. And that, I don't know, that thinking about that just kind of made me appreciate how much I want a buffet of styles in Star Wars storytelling, and continuing to wrestle with some of the people who can only compliment Andor by putting down other Star Wars. It's just so important to me to think about, like, Rebels is not less serious in terms of what's the actual story, what's the state of the galaxy, what's happening to these people. It's just that the story is told in a different way.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Go ahead. You're gonna say something more, Ken?
Yeah. When the series is done, I'm gonna have a long rant about the legacy of this show, and this legacy of the show without its own intention. It's not its fault. It's tied to a lot of exposing some. It's just the way people want to look above Star Wars, who are still within it, and it's something I run into every week now that I can't separate from the show sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're saying.
Like actual fights I've had, not fist fights, but like friendships kind of strayed, which it seems weird to say, but it's just like, I don't know, man. Lord of the Rings made D&D cool. You don't have to be a nerd anymore. Don't be a silly nerd. Dark Knight made you don't have to. You can be above it. Matrix, all that stuff, which are all these great things. It's never the properties, but it's just now 20 years on. That's every week been my battle, and I think that's something you're addressing, and that's unfortunately tied into the legacy of the show.
And it comes from the shame that those people feel. It is like, because the people on their lives are saying, well, you like a kid's show. You like a kid's movie. You like this thing for 12-year-olds. We've all heard that, right? So then those people get defensive and want to defend it. So then they now hold up Andor as like, no. It's not just about like, these space wizards and laser swords. We had this gritty show, right? But it just comes from their own, I don't know. It's very complicated. I get it. I get it. People telling me, you're still into that Star Wars thing? Yeah, of course I am. Of course I am. I'm going to dress up like Jar Jar. I mean, like, who cares? Cringe does not exist if you don't believe it exists. And I don't believe it exists. I'm living my truth. I love Star Wars.
Luthen-like speech.
Yep. The cringe monster can't hurt you. It's not real, I think is
yes,
beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for me, it is, I think, my own life history with people's obsession with needing art to be highbrow or lowbrow. And, it isn't people saying they like Andor. It's I had to mute a couple people on Blue Sky because I just kind of can't handle it. Because it makes me viscerally angry because of life experiences, because of some of the inherent politics to, you can say pew, 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 but genre has been a place where lots of people who don't feel seen can feel seen. It's an art. It's there for a reason. Jack Kirby's art has value on the cheap ass paper it was printed on, just as much value as it does if somebody prints it out on canvas and puts it in a museum. It's
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop my Luthen speech.
Yeah. That's why I want to say
it isn't about which Star Wars do you like better. If somebody just comes to me and goes like, I don't usually like Star Wars, but I like Andor, I'm like, thumbs up, that's great. It's when this sort of snobbery, high art versus low art comes into it that makes me more angry than is healthy.
Yes. I'm dealing with it just outside the bounds of ForceCenter, even our Discord. I'm just dealing with some people in my own life where I'm just like, I don't know how many more conversations we're gonna have. Because we're not talking about Star Wars. We're talking about pretension and shame and stuff. Yeah.
All right. Predictions and hopes for the future of Andor. We are the best position to do this because we didn't get screeners and we don't know what happens next.
Yeah.
Jennifer, any predictions or hopes for the next arc?
People are gonna die. They're gonna die. Oh,
these are the people who died. These are the people who died. Yep.
I mean, as wonderful as Rogue One is, the ending just makes me so depressed, and I know where we're headed, and I'm like, well, everyone's gonna die except for Cassian, who will then die in Rogue One. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been shocked by, it's been like one major character now per arc with Rasto and Cinta, and now it's like, how does Luthen go? Does Clea go? Maybe Clea doesn't go. I think Syril, I don't know if Cyril's making it out of the,
Clea doesn't go because she's Leia. Haven't you heard the theories? Even Yahoo ran it. No.
Wait, no.
Media literacy is dead. People are like, but what if she was Leia?
Oh my god!
I don't
because their name rhymes.
Because you see,
Clea, Leia.
Ooh,
actually, that's how I spell my daughter's name, Alea, with a EYA.
Well, there you
how
go.
Funny.
Mothma's daughter is Lita. So what if they have two halves of amulets, and when they come together, they become Leia?
They are a dyad.
They're a dyad.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, hilarious. Yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to to Mothma leaving the Senate, because I do feel like this is building to Mothma is not just breaking from the Empire; she is breaking with the way Luthen has been running the rebellion. And I'm fascinated to see how that that story is handled. This arc also really framed that question of the battle for Cassian's soul. Can he toughen up to do what he really needs to do? And I think he is going to do something very, very hard on Gorman. And I'm really curious to see how that all plays out. There's the theory that he takes a shot to start the riot. So
Yeah.
my wild thing was like, what if the person he assassinates to start the riot is Syril?
Oh.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Looking forward to well, I feel, the Gorman Massacre by timeline should be next. We know we're kind of locked into that, and I'm glad. I don't want this to draw out anymore. Let's get there. Let's deal with it because it leads to things that move the rebellion forward in good, bad, and other ways. So, weirdly excited to go to the Gorman Massacre.
Yeah. Only other prediction is that Grogu shows up and starts eating all those spiders on Gorman. That'd be great.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jennifer's thinking.
I was thinking, I'm like, I want one. They should, but I mean, how would anyone know that it's from Andor? Like, it's not like it's Star Wars coded, right? Like, I mean, so it's like I could have that piece right here, and you guys would be like, "I guess you like spiders."
I trust it.
Yeah, is that a Gorlectopod? Everyone would ask. Which leads us into our final question: if you could have a toy or merch based on these episodes, what would it be? Do we all want Gorlectopods with secret messages in them? Ken is a no on the Gorlectopod collectible.
I'm okay on spiders. I want a Varian Sky figure. Give me that.
Oh yeah. That's
by give me that, I mean someone else buy it so I can look at it because I don't collect anymore. But please, I want the figure. I want to go to a box store and see it on the shelf.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. I just want the merch I want is for the Gorman Cafe to be real, so I can go there.
Yes.
And if not,
Galaxy's Edge.
I'll take a HasLab playset.
There you go.
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. Jennifer,
Speaking
what
of
merch do you want?
In the outdoor area with the people sitting at the tables, and I don't know if it was actually in the show, but I saw in the behind the scenes there was this sloth creature that one of the patrons. Yes, did you see that?
I saw that.
Oh my gosh, I was like, the sloth puppet. I need it. Although my daughter has a Build-A-Bear sloth, which is pink, very similar.
Right.
But I think I need the puppet, the Andor version.
Nice.
There you go.
Well, that is it. You can take us home, Ken.
Let us all go home and to connections and flowers on the shelves. Hey, everybody, we can find you. Where's ForceCenter? Thanks for listening. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Facebook as well, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe here if you would like to, and give us a thumbs up. Podcast available in a lot of spots. Don't forget on Sundays we have our Databank Brawl re-release and Databank Brawl merch available at TeePublic and Fourth Wall. Links down below on YouTube. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly. Get into our Discord server. Follow me at CatNapsuck, or go to my website, catnapsuck.com. You can link to my Patreon page. Get my music show, Pop Rockin' Radio, there. Jen, where can they find you and your spiders, apparently?
I'm going to maybe start making videos, maybe make some more costumes. You can find me on Instagram at Jennifer Landa and TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go. Joseph, take us home. I was going to say something about Luthen, but, we'll have a lot more to say about him soon.
We do. I do. He's such a fascinating character. I hope everything turns out for old Luthen. You can find me on Blue Sky at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can find my website, josephscrimshaw.com. And thanks to people who have been signing up for my blog, Finish Your Monsters. It's late this week because I'm trying to finish my monster. I'm trying to finish the deadline of getting the first pass edited of this film I've been working on, and then I'll have a blog post out later this week. Thank you, everyone, again, who has signed up.
All right, that's it. See you next time here in the Andor.